It was 2007 when I graduated. Here it is 2011, and I'm still trying to basically start my career. One of the subplots of this series is about overcoming my ego. If you're trying to work at a game studio, good fucking luck. You just see the disappointment wash over his face. You just see him like in that moment, like dismiss me for the role. Just like, well. I've been given access to companies big and small, to their most inner secret, top secret data, vast amounts of credit card info, business strategy documents, built this Nike database, just a fire hose of data, just brrr, you could see it coming in on a terminal. I don't want to call her a bitch. She was not straight up a bitch, but she was... Welcome back, I'm Sean. We're doing a series revisiting every job I ever had as a web developer. I started my first jobs around the year 2000. I started in web development in 2004 professionally. I graduated in 2007 with a computer science degree. And this is episode 6 in a series if you want to go catch up. And this now brings us to 2011. So it's 2011 in Portland, Oregon. I've lost my ad agency web developer job. No savings. I'm living in a house with like 7 roommates in their late 20s. So no savings, no investments, no assets. The week I got fired, I just immediately started looking for web developer work. I now had a stronger portfolio to show. So after 40 to 50 applications, I had a few interviews, but I'll tell a story of one that stood out during this time. So I got to a second round interview with a major tech company, not as big as Adobe, but like bigger than like WordPress. I made it to a second round interview, and I'm not a good interviewer to this day. The main problem I need to work on is nervousness. So they're in Old Town Portland, in some 150-year-old skyscraper kind of downtown, like 2nd Street, something like that. And I really feel like it's my big opportunity. I got my nicest button-up shirt. So then they lead me in, and basically they take me to this, there's no other way to describe it. It's like an interrogation room. This building doesn't have air conditioning, or at least this room didn't. And it was middle of summer, kind of like right now. And it was like over 80 degrees in this room, or probably about 80 degrees in this interrogation room. It just literally felt like being held captive in a police station. I've got on my nice button-up shirt, and immediately before the first interviewer even comes in, I'm just like sweating, like partially nervousness and then partially the heat. And the way they structured this, I can't believe, is they just sent in one person after another with like a 2-minute break in between. Just like a tag team. I sat behind the desk, and then people came in facing me through the door and sat right across the desk. And then one by one, just like, here's the development lead, here's the back-end development lead, here's the system administrator, here's the product manager, here's the CTO. Grilling, and everybody had a completely different interview style. One person in there was totally just casual and like, oh, what's up, bro? Oh, I've seen you built some cool stuff. All right, that's cool. Yeah, I don't doubt that you could do this job fine, so I don't really have any questions for you, but they wanted all of us to meet, so yeah, good luck, and I'll see you later. Like, that was like at the most casual end. And then at the other extreme end, a guy was like technical grilling me about all these hypothetical programming questions, trying to hit me with gotchas of like technical quizzes, which is really anxiety inducing to go through if you've ever done a tech interview. It's tough. It's brutal, because for one big thing, your performance in that interview setting, it's not necessarily indicative of what your actual skill level is. Like, it can only kind of ballpark approximate it, getting a feel for where kind of someone's at, if they're senior level, junior level. But your actual skill, your composure has a way of falling apart on an interview, and you can't show your best work. You don't do your best thinking while somebody's grilling you and staring at you. It was at least 5 people. I think it was more like 7 or 8, which is an insane way to do an interview. So by now the sweat on my armpits by like the 5th person, it was like that big of a circle, just like giant, obvious, dark, soaking wet sweat rings by like the 5th interviewer, and I had a couple left to go still.
It's a very good question, and it's got a very, very clear answer.
So then it was like the CTO And so remember at this point, like I've been doing shitloads of JavaScript for ages. I've been writing JavaScript since honestly the 90s. I wasn't all up to speed with the latest and greatest ways of doing everything, but like I was a menace with JavaScript. I could pull off anything by this point, 2011. I could do anything you dream of in JavaScript if you gave me enough time. I wasn't the most senior level god tier at it, but I was like fully competent. I could do whatever. And then I get an interviewer who is just trying to stump me, and he's like saying these questions, and I'm kind of running through algorithms and stuff. And then he's like, I still remember it to this day. He's like, define a closure. What's a closure? And I had basically never heard that term at this point. It's like if you would have started a web development boot camp right then, a month before that interview in 2011, it would have taught you vocabulary, and you would have known as like a second week web development student, you would have learned the definition of closure, and you would have been able to go on a whiteboard and show what it is. But they didn't even have Code Academy style boot camp classes for JavaScript when I started doing JavaScript. So I had way more experience than somebody who just started out, but in many ways I was not as well off because I had missed vocabulary and stuff like that. So I had used a closure in JavaScript like 8 million times in my career at this point. I knew exactly what it was, but to me it was just a structure. It's kind of like a function thing, but it's like inline, and like you can use it like an expression even though it's a function. Like I had used that structure a ton, but on the spot, being grilled in a hot room with sweat pouring out, and my mind is racing, it's like, define a closure. I'm like, fuck, this is the CTO. And I couldn't come up with the definition. I'm like, I'm not sure. And then you just see the disappointment wash over his face. You just see him like in that moment, like dismiss me for the role. Just like, well, in a computer science degree, they don't teach you JavaScript. They don't teach you programming at all. In computer science degree, they teach you what happens inside of a processor and inside of memory, and the fundamentals of under the hood of an algorithm, how to write and approach an algorithm design. That's what they teach you in computer science. They don't teach you any coding. You have to learn coding yourself. So even though it was a great match, I don't get the job because I failed to come up with a specific definition. Landed another interview at this web and marketing agency in Old Town, Portland, kind of Chinatown. And if you're familiar with Backspace Cafe, I've been away from Portland for like 6 years, so I don't even know if Backspace Cafe still exists, but they had like the barcade. It's kind of in that same building. Backspace, like hipster video gamer coffee shop. It was only like 2 to 3 blocks from that last ad agency that I worked at in the Pearl District. And they've got a pretty swanky office. It's another old historic building, and it's an open floor plan. It was pretty sweet to be able to just you could go from your cubicle, you could just literally get lunch anywhere, every type of food trucks, and you could go to Backspace and get a sandwich or a coffee just like right downstairs. In less than 5 minutes you could be back in your seat. I get the interview, and it's in a glass wall, like a fish tank conference room. They have 5 or 6, 7 people all around the conference table. The interview goes pretty well. I didn't crush it, but I stayed composed enough, and my work was just like super relevant to what they were looking for. I mean, they literally is an ad marketing agency looking for an all-purpose jack of all trades full stack dev that can do everything from custom fancy email templates to full-on pure back-end headless applications for companies. I was just too good of a match. They couldn't pass it up. But it was a contractor role. I didn't appreciate how it's actually the same as self-employment. Like, you're responsible for your own bookkeeping, you're responsible for your own taxes, but the tax situation is just so much worse, and you don't get healthcare. I had no experience in that kind of setup. I wasn't thinking like, oh, it has to be W-2 versus 1099. I didn't know really shit about that. So I started work, and I treated it just exactly the same as the last job. So I was like, okay, I work here now. Came in 9 to 5 every day, even though as a contractor, you know, technically you are in charge of your own time. You take your own days off, you decide when you come and go. I hadn't fully appreciated all that, and I just treated it like a regular ass job. And now the vibe of this agency. So the previous ad agency that I talked about in my last episode, a lot of positive things I can say for it is like everybody there was talented and passionate about what they did. We at least believed, even if we were working on something kind of lame, we at least believed that we were like artisans and craftspeople, and like that we put our passion into what we built. If you compare that ad agency to like coffee shops, we were like the we'll wait for Homeboy Stereo. Yeah, so we're like a high-end craft artisan baristas making latte foam. That's the equivalent of that agency. And then, so this agency, the vibe of this agency, everyone is there strictly for money. We are the McDonald's of coffee, or like the Starbucks. Every person there was under no illusion about what we were doing. Very directly, it was about how do you do the least amount of effort and the least amount of work to reach that sweet spot on the project where you can make the most return on it. What level of quality do you have to bring it to, and just do that and nothing extra, no passion put into it, or don't go crazy with the craftsmanship. One of the subplots of this series is about overcoming my ego. I keep mentioning how I believed in this story of you go to college, you get a career, and then you buy a house and like you're set. And then within a few years, you're like senior level and everyone respects you and you're like the big shit because you went to college and got a job. Like that's how I used to think. And a slow unwinding of my ego and breaking down of my ego and learning that none of that shit happens that way unless you have some extreme luck. So I used to have a little bit of an attitude working here. I used to think, I didn't say it, but in my head I thought this is like kind of like working at Walmart, and these people aren't as passionate as the last agency I was at. They don't know how creative and cool I am, and I don't really belong here because I should be doing a lot cooler of work. I should be doing work for like snowboard companies and like cool shit, not this lame shit. I never said that. I never put off that energy to anyone, but I was thinking it in my head. I still got tastes of that excitement. There was times where I really felt like, wow, I'm really doing it. I'm in like the center of downtown Portland. This is the center of places that are doing cutting edge web development work, cutting edge advertising, and I'm like in the mix of it. And I'm like in boardroom meetings designing web experiences that are like cutting edge, you know, high-end stuff. If you go through the front door of a commercial ad agency as one of these companies like Nike and you're just asking for elite work, I mean, that is what we were doing. And so it was at a high level. So even though it wasn't as cool, it didn't satisfy my ego of like doing work for skate companies or fashion companies or anything. It had moments of just enough of that excitement where I felt like I was a part of something, and I felt like I was where I belonged. I felt like, yeah, I am an ad guy now. This is my basically third ad agency. My professional identity was starting to form. I'm like, yeah, I'm an ad agency guy. This is what I do. This is what I'm good at. This is where I'm valued. Originally, when I decided as a kid I wanted to learn programming, it was because I wanted to build video games, but that video game career is like so impenetrable from the outside. If you're trying to work at a game studio, good fucking luck. You have to have put out like top #1 selling indie titles to even be considered as starting out in the game industry. But when I was coming into the industry, what was red hot was websites. Every company out there needed to come onto the digital age for the first time in the late 2000s and the 2010s. So that was red hot, and that's just like where I ended up. It wasn't the same laid back scene as the last agency with like having a liquor cabinet, or they're cool with you drinking a beer at your desk. Like it wasn't all the way like that. But they tried to just do once again, just like their work, they tried to do what's the minimum thing we can do to make us say that we have perks for our employees, even though we don't really do shit and the office isn't even a fun place. What's the minimum we could do to like make it seem like we have perks for the employees? And so they did have like a yoga instructor like once a week come in, and just in the middle of the office, right beside the cubicles in a hallway, everyone laid out their mats, and you didn't have to participate, just anyone who wanted to participate. And usually 5 to 8, 9 people in the office would participate and do that. And it was like during office hours, like in the afternoon. And this is just, again, a story about my ego. Like, I hadn't got into yoga at that point yet. I was like really hardcore into skateboarding still, but I used to walk by it and they were like in the hallway. You had to like weave in between people laying on their yoga mat to leave the building to get to my bike. And I used to just subconsciously be annoyed. I'm like, God, this pussy yoga shit, guy's taking up all the space. And it's not like I disrespected yoga. I thought of it as something you do in the privacy of your own bedroom or like off in the corner of a gym. And I felt like elitist, like this doesn't belong in the office. Like we should be focused on web development and building cool shit. This is like pussy distraction shit. I don't know what I thought, but I remember thinking something like that and just thinking I was too cool for it, not ever sticking around for the afternoon yoga, just like cutting out immediately and leaving. So a few years later, I got into yoga for the first time in like 2015. And then I realized like, oh, it's the shit. Like yoga is the best thing ever. And like, that's actually awesome that it was happening in the office. And I should have taken them up on that because I needed it really bad. Sore ass body from just sitting in the desk all day and riding a bike in tight ass jeans, and I could have really used it and the stress relief aspect of it, but I was too cool for it. I was too cool for everything. So once again, I was getting good portfolio projects from this job. It did help me, even though I didn't even make it a full year there. It was maybe 7 or 8 months, something like that. I'll talk a little bit about the work. So I did a big project for Nike. They had an internal project where they track every chemical compound that's in every single Nike product. So it's a big, huge database. And so for example, like if you buy Jordans and the leather on them is red, there's specific chemicals that are in that red dye that aren't in black dye or blue dye. And so it would be tracked in a database, and then they would have every like lab report of that chemical and like environmental studies of that chemical, the environmental impact and like how poisonous it is for every possible thing, like the tips of shoelaces and a Nike water bottle, and like what is the plastic made out of the Nike water bottle and how toxic is it. And so throughout my career, this is one just like side note about the web development careers. I've been given access to companies big and small, to their most inner secret, top secret data, customer names, vast amounts of credit card info, business strategy documents, every type of insider company info I've been able to see, and a lot of just like random trivia knowledge that I know about the world. A lot of times it comes from these type of insights where I've just been given access into the company's most secret data for all sorts of companies. Just any type of business you can name that I've built stuff for, the tourism industry, the clinical trials industry, sports equipment. So I used to sometimes just be interested in the chemical reports themselves of the Nike data that they're providing me with. And sometimes I would waste time not even doing the programming work. I would just be really interested. I'm like, oh, what is in the Nike water bottles? And I learned that like I think like blue plastic is like a lot more toxic than other colors of plastic. So yeah, built this Nike database. And then there was a security company, a home security company, and they do installs of their security systems. So cameras, motion sensors, and it would like call the police for you if it detected intruders. And one of the probably like the top 3 brand names in that industry. So what I built for them was they had a whole call center that's just running all day long, taking thousands of calls a day from people all over the country, and they're like marketing and they're signing them up to install a home security system. What I built was a headless application. It had no interface. It just ran on a server. It was a pure server script. It would receive all of the contacts out of their customer management platform from the call center, just a fire hose of data. Just brrr, you could see it coming in on a terminal, brrr, just like all the customers that they interacted with, and like the case notes and all the customer data, just like blasting into this app that I wrote. And then it would take this fire hose of incoming data and then sort it all and process it in certain ways. Like basically my marketing agency, my ad agency had a whole campaign of like, okay, 1 hour after the call, you send them this type of email, and then the next day you send them this type of thank you email with links of like how to set up their installation. And then 7 days before the installation, you send this reminder email, and 14 days after installation, and there's probably like 8 to 10 emailing events to the customers around their home security system. And all these special cases of like, oh, sometimes they reschedule their install date, or sometimes the point of contact has changed, or it's a different person, or sometimes they unsubscribe from certain things, and all these edge cases that you had to think through and account for. And there was no guidebook that anybody gave me. They just said, here, figure this out. It was almost over my head at the time, almost, but not really. I built it, I managed it. Anyways, you get the sense from the story that it was just a very vanilla experience. Oh, and the pay, it was maybe upper 50,000s, but maybe 52,000. But after tax, you basically subtract 30% from that. And I was more or less making what a McDonald's branch manager would make, just nothing, like making nothing. So it was, once again, it was paycheck to paycheck the whole time. It's like here, it was 2007 when I graduated. Here it is 2011, and I'm still trying to basically start my career, is what it feels like after all these jobs. Still, I'm trying to just like find that promised land of like the corporate ladder you can climb and the high pay that works out, and I'm still not finding it. I lost this job as well. So there was my manager of my little department was this lady who, I don't want to call her a bitch. She was not straight up a bitch, but she was, how do we say it? She was like no nonsense. She was like the type of person who is on the work emails 24/7 at night, big dark circles under her eyes, living an entire life that is maximum stress, sacrificing maximum stress for the sake of just some stupid job, office job. Like, why should you care that much? It was like a row of open cubicles, like probably like 4 on each side. And then she was at the back. She could look straight down the line, right over your shoulder, and you like felt her gaze in the back of your head. She was just like uptight about every possible deadline and how you were spending your time down to the minute. If she saw me flip over to YouTube for a second, even one thing, like a 30-second thing, she would like have something to say about it. Like, oh, I see you're on YouTube. What's up with that? We're paying for that time? Like, you're a contractor, you're billing by time. And I wouldn't say she like had it in for me, but she didn't necessarily love me. I'm kind of dancing around saying, I feel like this is the type of woman that like hates men. I'll just say it that way. And was looking for any little thing to like get you on and assert boss power, like boss dominance. And I stayed out of interpersonal relationships, like to my detriment when it came to in the office. I kept my head down and I focused on like work all through my career up to this point, just like it's about the work. And that also was a mistake. I've learned that relationships are almost more important than the work. You can do very mid work, but if everybody loves you, you're going to go farther in your career than if you do 10x work, but you're an asshole and nobody understands you or likes you. And I learned that. That took years to learn. But I did good work at this company. I came in on time every day, never late for a meeting once. I gave good input on our conferences, on our meetings. I did everything that was assigned, delivered it always. Not a ultra blowing your mind star player, but fully delivering on the job. So then what happened to coincide right at this time was the Occupy Wall Street movement. If you know anything about Portland, you know that Portland loves activism and far left liberal ideology type shit. So Occupy movement hit Portland hard. Like, of all the places where the movement had a presence, like, it hit Portland hard. And I was seeing like news articles come in of like that the same day that the Occupy protests, the first day they started. And so like in real time, I was seeing on Portland news websites, I was seeing photos of like wow, they're moving in tents onto the courthouse downtown, and this is really crazy, and we've never seen anything like this, and they're just occupying the federal building. And I was like, I gotta check this out. And other coworkers also felt the same way, like, we gotta check this out, because it was like a once in a lifetime. Like, we had never seen anything like that ever happen before, and we were working only like a few blocks away, and we wanted to like get the pulse of like, we wanted to see that in person. Like, it was big news at the time. Like, you literally didn't know if it was going to lead to like the collapse of Wall Street and some like rethinking of society. Like, for a minute there when the Occupy movement started, or at least in Portland, like, it really seemed like that was a possibility. So we made a hike down, and we knew that there was a meeting coming later, but we felt that this was like extenuating circumstances. Like this is a once in a lifetime, like, this is for the history books, what's happening here. Like, we need to go see it. Like, who cares if I come in late to a meeting for like 2 minutes late? I need to go see this. So a couple of us went to go see things, walked to where it was all happening, and I snapped a couple photos that day. Overall, not that much different from any other, if you've ever been to any political rallies or protests, like, not too much different from that. But it was shocking at the time to see people full on just like, we're gonna move in on the federal courthouse and we're gonna like occupy it. Like, that I had never seen that in my life. I was so swept up in the excitement. It was just like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. And then all of a sudden, like, looking at the time, like, oh fuck, we got a meeting, and I got to be back fast. So I like went as fast as I could, ran back up. I slide into the conference room. I'm not exaggerating. It was like, at the most, I was 2 minutes late. Like, normally I'm the type of guy that's 5 minutes early to everything. I'll come in 5 minutes early and I'll sit down. I'll keep doing my work on the computer 5 minutes early. And I wasn't even the focus. They didn't even need the engineering point of view on this meeting. It was not even the focus of that. I didn't even need to be there. I was just extra. And I always felt like meetings like that were bullshit anyways. I already didn't want to attend them, but I felt like this was the perfect excuse in the day that Occupy movement breaks out, and just like, hey, yeah, I was just trying to see a once in a lifetime thing. Yeah, I'm 2 minutes late. So what? She basically just like fired me on the spot. We like had the meeting. I think she fired me right after the meeting. She's like, and just like so stern, she took me down into the backspace coffee shop. She's like, listen, you're done here. We can't have this. Is unacceptable. You can't come late to meetings. That's just not professional, and your time here is over. I felt like she just got satisfaction out of that, out of owning a man and telling men how it is and getting rid of men in the office. Like, I think she was just waiting from the time I stepped foot in there to do that, and just burning eyes in the back of my head, watching my screen 24/7 to make sure I'm like constantly productive, and waiting for any false move. And in my opinion, I don't think I deserved that. I think I was doing just great work, and I think I got along with everybody. But yeah, 2 minutes late, got let go for that. Learned a lot about contract and how that whole thing works and how it's different from being a full-time employee. So it's the end of 2011, and I'm broke. Nothing in my bank account, no savings, no assets, living with 7 roommates, paycheck to paycheck, and now there's no paycheck, and I got to figure something out fast. And that's where we'll pick it up in the next episode. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, like, comment if you like any of this shit. I got several more stories to tell in the career arc, but I hope you got something out of this.